All right, so Arena did a great job talking to you guys about what to do before you launch your site. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to start to cover what you do after launching your site. So real quick, sorry, I did not realize these slides are like every bullet point I have to click for, so I'm going to try to remember to do that. But I'm Chris Edwards. I run an agency called Data Driven Labs. We do digital marketing, and we focus on basically anything data driven. So this talk is going to kind of focus on those type of aspects.
Did you put your website? Did you set slides up like she did?
Yes, I did. It was on the previous slide. It's datadrivenlabs.io/new launch.
Thank you.
And that'll be on my ending slide as well, so you can download the slides. I've been a website developer for 17 years. Oh, there it goes. A digital marketer for 12 years. A WordPress developer for 5 years. Like I said, a business owner for 3 years. This is going to drive me crazy. I've been a geek. I've been a geek my entire life. And you can follow me on Twitter at that Twitter handle. All right. So you have just finished launching your website. You're celebrating, popping some champagne. I actually worked for a city government once that's local to this area, and we launched the new website, and they literally, during the commission meeting, had us set up a computer and hang a ribbon over it and cut the ribbon with everybody all lined up and doing a picture of cutting a ribbon on a computer. Gotta love government. And they even had cake and everything for it. It was really kind of pathetic. But anyways, the biggest myth that's going to come up is if you build it, they will come. That's not true. When you build a website, nobody knows. There's new websites popping up. Just during this talk, a bunch of new websites have gone online. Nobody knows your website exists. And so we're going to kind of talk about, and here we go again. We're going to talk about what you do after launch to be able to be found, right? So we're going to talk about setting up Google Analytics. We're going to talk about setting up SEO, social media. We're going to talk about how you create and push out some content, how you come up with what that's going to be. We're going to talk about maintaining the site. And then we're also going to talk about, oh, and of course the picture pops up last. We're going to talk about when do you want to use PPC. So we'll dive into each of those. So first, we're going to kind of jump into tracking. So this is setting up Google Analytics. And Arena already touched on this, but I do want to talk about why we're going to track different aspects of our site. First thing, we want to understand what our visitors are doing. You've built this site, people are coming. You built this site under an assumption they're going to do something, a certain aspect on your site. What we want to do is we really want to understand what they're doing, who they are, where they're coming from. We want to really understand our customers because this is how we're going to improve our site as we move forward. We want to understand our acquisition. Where did they come from? How did we get them? What sites did they visit before coming to us? Who linked to us? Did they come from different social networks? Are they coming from different links? How are they finding your site and coming in? Is it organic search? If you're doing a paid search campaign, which paid search campaign? We also want to identify what our top content is. This kind of goes back to understanding your visitors. We want to understand what they're looking at on our website. A lot of times you'll spend all this time building this one perfect page. You're like, this is where everyone's going to go. It's going to be awesome. And then they all go to your worst looking page on your site. And that's where everybody goes. And in the end, knowing that is going to help you to improve your business because you're going to go, well, I know I put all my time in this page, but maybe I should go focus on making this page a little bit nicer and make it convert better because everyone's going here instead of here. Also help you understand not just top content, but the path they're going to get to that content. So understanding that they're hitting this page, and then this page. And it will help you better build out your funnel and understand how to help those people convert. And then, speaking of conversions, we want to know about our conversions. We're going to make the little picture pop up too. You want to know what are the conversions that are happening and know how many of them are happening. This is where you get your ROI. It's very important for us to know all the customers that have come to our site and what they end up purchasing because that's going to tell us what channels we want to continue to market to. You're spending a lot of time and effort marketing your site, and you may be spending all your time on Facebook, and you may have thrown like 3 tweets out there, and those tweets generated 4 times as much as all the work you've done on Facebook. Well, then maybe we should, lay back on Facebook and focus on Twitter. That's just a basic example, but you can look at what channels are converting and then focus on those channels. So we want to know what our conversions are. And so we do this using Google Analytics. Reason we use Google Analytics, first off, it's free. There's a whole bunch of other options out there that you can use. There's Kissmetrics, there's Mixpanel, there's Heap. There's a whole bunch of new ones coming out as well, Adobe Analytics, stuff like that. They're all great tools, but just to get you started, and for this talk alone, we're going to talk about Google Analytics just because it's very simple, it's free to use, simple to install, and it's used by both beginners and pros. I do analytics for small businesses. We also do analytics for large corporations. Our largest customer is an $8 billion hospital network. We use Google Analytics across all, I think we got 65 or 70 of their websites. We use Google Analytics across all of them and cross-domain track all of those. And we still use Google Analytics. We do use some other tools as well in conjunction with it, but analytics is still our go-to item. So it's used by both beginners and pros. So it's definitely a tool you want to keep with. The other big thing, it's well supported. You're going to come to a group like this. I'll ask the question, how many here are already using Google Analytics? All right, so about half the room. So you'll see wherever you go, you're going to have other people who are using it because it's so widely used. This means it's going to be easy to get support. It's going to be easy to ask others about it when you get stuck on something. Really easy to find additional information online about it. All right, so installing Google Analytics. Ariana touched on this. There is a great plugin out there that I suggest, and this is Monster Analytics. The great thing about Monster Analytics is it's built for the beginner level. They have a complete tutorial to walk you through not only setting up their plugin, but actually setting up your Google Analytics account to begin with. I highly recommend if you're not really sure how to set this up on your WordPress site, installing this plugin. Go to the plugin repo to install this plugin. It is free. If you go to their website, they don't talk about the free version at all, and they will try to sell you the pro version. The pro version is nice. I will say I've used the pro version. Does a lot of great things, but for just installing Google Analytics, you can do the free version that they have, and it will work great for you. Advanced users, you can install the Google Analytics directly on your site. You can put it up inside your head tags if you have access to that. Some themes actually give you the ability to stick code into your head tags. The Genesis framework does. A couple other themes, I think Divi as well does, has where you can stick stuff into the head tag. Different frame networks have the ability to do that. You can do Google Analytics. My favorite is Google Tag Manager, is another way you can install it. Google Tag Manager is a whole nother beast on its own, so I'm not going to dive into that, but if you want to look into that or ask questions afterwards, come find me and I can tell you about what Google Tag Manager is able to do as well. So once you've set up Google Analytics, the next thing we want to do is obviously you want to be found. We have the tracking set up. We know what's going to happen when people come to our site. So now we need to get the people coming to our site. So we're going to go ahead and set up SEO basics. Now I'm going to preface this with, as we jump into this, this is not going to be an in-depth SEO talk. I could talk to you guys for about 4 hours on SEO minimum. We're going to do a very high level, very basics of what you can do to go ahead and get started with SEO. And then I believe we're going to have probably an SEO talk sometime this year at one of the meetups. We'll have probably have a SEO day that we have 2 talks focused more in depth on SEO. So why do I recommend Yoast? Obviously, Rena talked about it earlier for on the social side, but Yoast does a lot of amazing things when it comes to doing search. First thing it does, it'll create your sitemap. Sitemap's very important. You're going to want to upload your sitemap into Webmaster Tools. What this is, a sitemap is you telling Google what pages you want them to make sure they index. The way Google works for the web is they have, they call it a spider. It crawls the web. It goes, it finds a link, follows that link, follows another link, follows another link. And it finds all of your pages through following your links. By uploading a sitemap, what you're doing is you're telling Google which pages are higher priority, which pages you want them to find, And so if they, for some reason, are having a hard time finding those through your links, that sitemap will instruct them of where to go and what to find. So you want to, Yoast automatically creates that for you. So we highly recommend using the functions for the sitemap generator in there. Also make sure, some people have sitemap generators already installed, or their theme that they're using may actually already do sitemaps for them. Make sure that you check that, and if your theme is doing that, disable it on either Yoast or on there. You don't need 2 sitemap generators running on there, because then you've got 2 different sitemaps, and actually had to happen with my own site, funny enough. I didn't realize that there was another sitemap running, and Google was giving me all kinds of errors about multiple sitemaps, and it was confused of which one it was supposed to use. So the other thing Yoast does is it helps with your pages and your titles, or with your page titles and your meta descriptions. This is going to be the biggest thing with your site. Your site will automatically, WordPress out of the box generates title tags for each of your site, or for each page on your site. However, these are very basic title tags. They're usually the name of the page, dash, and your site name. And sometimes they'll even put your site tagline in there. This can cause duplicates. This also is not very keyword rich usually, because you're making your page titles look nice for your page, not great for search engines. The other thing is your meta descriptions. WordPress does not automatically fill out your meta descriptions. It just takes the first bit of text on your page, and that's what gets pulled into Google. So that could be your first paragraph. Depending on your site design, that could actually just be random text of some sort. Some people put their author bios up at the top of their article, so it could be pulling that in instead for your meta description. Yoast is going to allow us to edit those, and we'll talk about that in just a second here. We'll talk about that right now, actually. Going blind here with having to click each one. So first thing, we're going to want to set up title tags and meta descriptions on every page of your website. This means your posts. This means even your categories. Every single page, you want to make sure you set this up. When you first go through this process, it may seem, depending how many you have, it could seem like a lot of work, but it's well worth it to make sure that every page has this set up on it. You want to make sure that you're using keywords in here. So each page, look what you want to rank for and use the keywords inside your both your title and your meta description. You don't want to stuff it. Don't just make your meta description a list of keywords. And the reason for that is when you do a Google search, whenever you do a Google search, that blue line you see across the top in the Google search, that's always the page title. And then that block of text that's under it, that is the description. So when you do a search, sometimes actually, if you're not sure what to use for a page title, just do a search for your keywords and see what other people are using. Don't copy theirs directly. Make yours unique, but use theirs as inspiration of how you can write yours if you're stuck. You want to make it really interesting. The key is it's kind of clickbait. You want people to click over to your site. So the biggest thing is I can make page title tags and meta descriptions full of keywords, but if they're really ugly and they look spammy, people aren't going to click them. They're not going to come to your website. So this is where you want to dive in and you want to say, okay, we want to make this so that people want to click this. And the biggest way to do it is make it readable by humans. Stop trying, there's some people who will tell you, stuff it full of keywords and do all this crazy stuff so that the Google algorithm will try to rank you higher or something along those lines. But you want to make it readable by the people that are going to be looking at your content and coming to your site. So this could be asking a question and answering that question, or a top 10, top 10 plugins to use for SEO. You can do things like that, and that's going to get people excited and wanting to come and click your content. You can even do, I would be careful on the Huffington Post style of, this happened, find out what happened next. That might be a little too, but you could do it and see how it works. You can always test it out and see how that works for your site, depending on what type of site you have. But you definitely want to make sure that you have both your title tag and your meta description leading them deeper into your site. I always tell people to half answer the question. If what you're posting about is more of a question or answering something for somebody, kind of half answer it. So they go, oh, this person knows what they're talking about. Let me dive in deeper and get a deeper answer. So they know that they're going to get an answer when they go to your site. But don't give it to them all right there on the front page, because then they'll never even come to your site. Keep it relevant. This is really important for Google's algorithm. If you create a page title and meta description that has nothing to do with the content on that page, Google's algorithm will see that, they will flag it, and you will most likely lose ranking because of it. So don't just say, I'm going to talk about this, but everybody's searching for this, so I'm going to make my page title about that to try and get better searches. Google will see that. Also, it will raise your bounce rate, which if people go and they jump back over to the site or back over to the search right away, Google knows, hey, their content wasn't interesting enough for the people who are clicking it, so maybe we're not going to rank them as high as this other page that when people click over to it, they either don't come back or they take a while to come back. And then fill out almost all the characters. So you, and this just recently changed again in December, but your page title, you have a certain amount of characters that you can fill out. And the great thing about Yoast is it will actually tell you, has a little green bar across the bottom, it'll tell you how much you should fill out. So you should try to utilize as much of it as you can in the page title. The meta descriptions are great because they've just gotten a lot longer. You can write several sentences now when you used to be only able to write 1.5, maybe 2 sentences at most. You can now write almost 4 sentences of data in there. When you're using Yoast, Yoast does a great job of has a little line that says red, yellow, green. At least get your meta description to where it's green. If there's nothing more to talk about, let's say it's a contact page, there's only so much you can talk about on a contact page. Maybe you don't fill it completely out, but definitely get it to at least the green level. If it's an article, maybe you dive into a little bit, in this article we talk about blah, blah, blah. Try to fill that out as much as you can so that you can get, more keywords in that meta description, and you also, it's a teaser to your site. You can maybe entice people to come to your site a little bit more. And then do not duplicate. Across your site, you want to make sure that you're not duplicating meta descriptions or titles. They all need to be different and unique for each page. This goes for the content on your site as well. You do not want to have duplicate content across your site. You should only have the content in one place on your site for each type of item. Oh, and of course there's the picture. It would have been nice to have that the whole time. So you can see here, this is going to be what we're talking about, the page title. Here's your description. You can't see what it says, but it says something. This is your URL in the green. Down the way it is now, this is actually, they just changed this up not too long ago. Used to have the information down here to change it. Now what you have to actually do is click on the title inside of Yoast, and then you can edit that title. Same with the meta description. You click on the meta description, and you can edit the meta description. So that's something they did change recently, but it still does where it shows you how many characters to put in and so forth. So it's really easy. It'll give you suggestions here if you put your focus keyword in. It'll give you suggestions not just on the description, page description, but it'll also give you some suggestions on your content of your site as well. And I think that's where we're going to actually head next is, so maybe not. Wait. I feel like I went the wrong way here. Give me a second. All right. Yeah. So, yes.
I have a multi-site where it's a franchise of different locations. When it comes to content and duplicating to different multi-sites, and you have the metadata, I'm assuming it's bad to have the same description for the same pages on different sites.
Yeah, you could change just the end to be the location. So Lake Mary, bagels, whatever, the name, you can maybe change the end of that, and that will help with that.
So just changing the name, but like the rest of it is okay.
Yeah, and I would try to maybe in your meta description put your location name in there as well. The where it's at as well, how I would try to differentiate those. All right, so one of the biggest things is link building. This still plays a huge part in SEO. There's different types. There's internal and external. This is out of all the things SEO, this is probably one of the hardest things. This is probably what you can spend the most time doing. I'm sure Robert can attest to this. He works In SEO, link building can be very frustrating at times, but there's some simple ways that you can build some of those links. So first is just your internal links. You want to interlink all of your content together. We actually, whenever we write a blog post for our site, we try to find at least 2 links per article, depending on the article length. Sometimes we'll do more. 2 links to other content on our page. This could be to another blog article. This could be to a services page that offers a service similar to what our article is about. But we always want to, at least we try to have 2 internal links minimum for each of our content. This is in addition to any of your menu links or any of those type of links you have. This is actually inside the content linking to these different items. So you want to try to interlink all of the content around your site so that you can kind of create a nice network. Don't keep linking to the same items. Interlink different content. It'd be nice. It's actually nice to try to have at least 2 internal links to each item or each item inside your site by minimum. So if you really want an article to do well, the more internal links that point to that will help. Ahrefs just did an article about showing how much internal links still do matter, and it's a huge piece of the puzzle still, doing internal linking inside your own site. Local listings and, there we go. Local listings and citations. So the other big thing is claiming your citations. You have the big ones out there. You have Google. You have Yellow Pages has online listings. Don't buy a Yellow Pages article. You get their free listings. Yext, all of those different places, you can go on and get your listing. The listing still makes a huge deal. If anything, make sure you claim your Google listing, especially with the multiple locations. You want to claim the listing for each one of those locations. You can use services like Yext. They do kind of help out. I will warn with Yext. They do, I'll get to it in just a second. With Yext, they will actually, they create the URLs back to your site, but sometimes they will create phone numbers and they actually will delete your listings if you stop paying them. So sometimes watch out for that. There are other services like Bright Local. Bright Local is a great service for claiming listings because they claim it under your own name. They create you an email address and password, and they create all your listings for you under your own information so that if you decide to ever leave them, you keep your listings. But you do want to make sure you claim your local listings, and you want to make sure your name, address, and phone number across all listings is the same. So this is very important, especially on the phone number. Some people will try to put tracking phone numbers into their listings. Highly recommend against that because Google wants to see, they call it NAP. They want to see that it's the same across all of those, and then make sure all of them link back to your main homepage of your site. Don't link off the different services. Link to your main page of your site. In the cases of your locations, link to the location, where you want them to land for that location on the site. And we had a question over here.
Are you saying yes or yet?
Yext, Y-E-X-T.
Y-E-X-T?
Yes.
And the other one is?
Bright Local.
No. The other question is, can you cloak your address? I mean, I work out of my home and I really don't want everybody to know.
So a lot of the listing sites have the ability to hide your address for home-based businesses. So you can hide your address, and you can also just mark a service area. If you are, for example, like a pest control company, you can mark your service area of what areas you service.
I see that, but I go global. I mean, I'm mostly domestic. I can't. I'll talk to you about it later. There's not that. I can't find that option.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I'm pretty sure most of them you can. I believe Google, you can hide your address. You can just not put the address in there for your Google listing. So, yes, sir.
On the first point about internal content links, are you thinking like relevant post kind of plugins, or are you thinking actually doing it manually is superior?
I prefer manual. The nice thing about WordPress is when you highlight the word and you start to type in, it automatically searches your whole entire database of all your pages and posts and gives you suggestions to click. So, and the Gutenberg Editor still works the same way because I've been using the Gutenberg Editor on several of our sites. When you highlight and you hit the link button, when you start to type in, it'll pop up. So what I'll sometimes do is I'll see something and go, I'm pretty sure I have content that I've written about this. So I'll go and just type in, let's say I'm writing an article and I'm talking about SEO. I'll go type SEO and I'm sure it'll show me 4 or 5 different things on my site that have the keyword SEO in it, and then I can select which one I want to link to.
I would use the shortcut you're talking about. So you're saying highlight and click the link.
Yeah.
It will pop up. So
in your current WYSIWYG editor and also in the Gutenberg editor, when you click the button, it just looks like a little link, a little chain link. When you click that button up there, it'll open up a little box, and with the text you have highlighted, and it'll have you where you put a URL in. It'll also have, if you start typing in a word, it'll show you all the posts that you've made. And that's built in.
That's why I haven't seen that. Okay, that's what you
Yeah, if you're in the code view, yeah, you won't see that.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, Crystal.
Yes.
If you're in the code editor as well, or in the regular editor, you can press K while you have it highlighted to pop that up.
Okay.
You don't even want to get off your keyboard,
There you go.
and that works in the code editor.
So if y'all didn't hear that, you can press the letter K when you highlight that text, and it will pop that up as well. And then external links. I put this little graphic over here because it was easier in trying to list everything out. There's lots of ways to build your link externally. So guest posts. Don't be spammy. Make really good content and reach out to other people that you think this will work. We do this. We write content for, obviously we do analytics and data. So what we do is we actually reach out to different places, different plugins, like different form plugins and stuff. So for example, Caldera Forms, we're working with them on creating a post about conversions and how to track conversions with their forms. And in that, we're going to link back to something in our site so that we build an external link back to a page or an article on our site. So you can do guest posts for other people, reach out to other people in your industry or whatnot. Infographics, if you are good at creating graphics and collecting data and stuff like that, you can create a great infographic that has a link back to your site. Your blog, you can link back to, that's going back kind of the internal linking piece, but you can link back to different things from your blog. Sponsorships, we always make sure whenever we sponsor an event, one of the things that we do make sure we always ask is, can we have a link back to our website on your website? We're paying you to sponsor at the event. We would really absolutely love if you at least link to our website. Contests, videos, and creating link bait. Link bait is, I just want to explain it really fast, and I'll jump into your question right after that. This is what we do. We actually have created some tools that are very useful to people. And what happens is, just by creating these tools, people want to link to these tools on their own site. So when they're writing an article about how to do something, they go and they find our tool and they link to our tool automatically. And now we've created a link without us even doing any work. When we created the stuff, but we haven't reached out to them or anything. They just found our tool useful, and so now they're linking to our site. And so that's kind of what we mean by link bait, something that anyone else is going to see and they're going to want to link to. Yes, ma'am.
The infographics thing, were you suggesting essentially embedding the URL in the graphic itself, or just typing it on the infographic, or I wasn't certain about that
Okay.
part.
So what you want to do is you want to make sure that the links are text links that link back to your site, because Google does not read the content inside the images. It's getting there, it can read some of that, but it's not going to give you any kind of credit. You can either link, a lot of times you'll link the whole image, or you'll have them put a snippet of code that says this infographic was created by company name here, and link the company name back to you.
Thanks for clarification.
Yes, sir.
Clarification on sponsorships and link building. Do you actually build a landing page so that when you say, would you put our link on your site, you build a landing page so when someone clicks on that link and they go to your site, they actually hit a landing page that would emphasize that sponsorship?
You can. It depends what you want to do with that. If we're doing, like, say, a bigger conference and we're sponsoring a bigger conference, we may create a whole page just for that conference. We don't always do that just because there's work involved in creating a whole entire landing page. But if it's like a big conference and you're a big sponsor of it, you can create a whole entire page, landing page about it. As long as it's on your domain, it's going to at least get a link back to your domain, and then it's going to build the rating for that URL of that individual page. Just make sure that page you link to other services on your site as well.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Can you give me an example of a linking tool?
Of a linking tool?
The tool, when you talk about the link page, you create tools. What kind of tools would
So we have a tool that we're in the works for helping people visualize PPC ads, because we do PPC, so that people can put in the different information and they can see what the ad would actually look like without having to log into AdWords. Another thing, UTM Generator Tool, so for creating UTM tags. You can also just create resources that people want to see, so very good articles. One thing, we actually got a lot of links back that was actually ended up being link bait, and we weren't originally planning on it be, was some of you guys were there. We had a meetup about when Matt came out. That was like about a month ago. Matt Mullenweg came out and spoke at our WordPress meetup, and we created an article afterwards that kind of, my wife took a lot of really good notes, and so we had enough notes. I was like, let's write an article about it. So we wrote an article, and it got picked up by all the WordPress news sites out there, and what ended up creating probably about 40 or 50 link backs to our website from different domains, just by that article being picked up, because it was he's obviously key figure here in WordPress, and so a lot of places wanted to pick up that information. So just creating things that people want to link to. You can also make that link bait by just that title tag we were talking about, making that really pop out and make people want to put it on their website as well. And then the biggest thing I always say, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Irina mentioned Unsplash during her presentation for a place to get photos, and that was just that was a promotional service by Crew, the web agency.
Yes, yes.
Created a free photo site because they wanted free photos, and anywhere on Unsplash links back to their agency.
Yes, that's the other thing. You can create a whole entire service to create backlinks. Yeah, a little involved there, but it's an option. Biggest thing is, do not buy links. This used to be a thing back in the day. People used to go out and buy links on sites. You could sell links on sites. It used to not be a bad thing. It was just frowned upon by Google, and it wasn't penalized. And I even had a site that I sold space on, and you could put your link on my site for $10 a month, and it would be a properly set up link. Google now does not frowns upon that, so you don't want to go buying links. Now, it's not saying you can't buy ads in the ad system for a site. It's not going to penalize you for getting ads on Facebook or anything like that. It's specifically buying for the purpose of just creating backlinks, buying links onto people's sites. And also, when you're doing guest posts, you want to make sure your guest posts are not just regenerated articles, but actual solid built articles for a site. And also make sure you're not posting onto a site that has low link quality. So there's sites that still exist out there that are literally just, anybody can post an article, anybody can post anything. Those can be either very low quality or can actually penalize you depending on what kind of spam, if they're a very spammy type of site. So you want to kind of be very careful with that. Anyone who's ever asking you to pay for a link, just avoid it is really the best advice on that. And so any other questions kind of on the SEO pieces? All right. So now we're going to talk about social media. And all this kind of still comes back together. All this will still kind of play back into SEO. But you want to make sure you're being social and setting up your social media. Arena talked about how to set up those previews that pop up. Those are those image and description that pop up when someone posts your link on these social pages. But the biggest thing you want to do after you've launched your site is you want to go create your social media pages on all of these different networks. So for example, Facebook, go create a Facebook page. Twitter, same thing, go create a Twitter account for your business. LinkedIn, same thing. Pinterest, Instagram. There they all are. Even on YouTube, if you're going to create videos, go create a YouTube account just for your business, and make sure inside there you link back inside that page. All those should link back to your site. All of them have a spot for you to link back to your site, so make sure you link back to your site. And you want to go ahead and set up all the ones you're going to use. If you're not going to be using them, you don't want to set them up and just have them sit stale. Make sure you don't overwhelm yourself, so pick what's going to work for you. Pinterest works great for some, doesn't work great for us. I mean, we do digital marketing. There's very few things, like infographics we're able to post to Pinterest and they do very well. But us writing an article about SEO, a little hard to put an article about SEO into Pinterest. I mean, what am I gonna do? Put a picture of Google's logo in there? It doesn't work. Same with Instagram. Instagram is good for if you're more of a visual blog. You do fashion, you do hairstyles. We work with a hairstylist, and they do amazing on their Instagram. And they actually get a lot of business from Instagram because they take a picture of every single style they create for one of their customers. So we highly recommend look at the different ones and where your customers are at, and be there as well. Yes.
What do you think of having like the basic content on like the YouTube or a Facebook or LinkedIn post and the detailed content on the site? Do you do that a lot, or do you think that's a bad idea? To sort of split, like you put a 3-minute video on YouTube and the 10-minute videos on your site, so if they want to learn more, you know what I mean?
Okay, so you're talking like for video content. I put the whole video on. I actually put the whole video on YouTube just because free video hosting. I put the whole thing on YouTube. I actually have a couple different things I did for not my agency site, but for a different site. We get a lot of people who find us through YouTube, and then we also get a lot of people who find us through search and come to the page, and the video is embedded on the page. So we kind of link back, but in the video, I will tell people to go visit the URL, and I'll put the URL in the bottom of the video and have them come back to our site. And I also will put it in the link down in the description of the video as well to try and link back as well. And then if that video takes off on YouTube, remember YouTube is actually, I believe it's the 2nd or 3rd most used search engine on the web. So I think it's the 2nd most used. Robert, do you know that? Is it the 2nd? 3rd. Okay. Oh, Amazon 2nd. So it's obviously you want to make sure you're putting your content out there and putting it onto YouTube, because that's a whole nother search engine that people can find you. It's just to get them back to your site, you're going to have to link inside the video back to your site.
I apologize, I missed what you said to do for the sites that you don't actively use, such as Pinterest and Instagram. You said don't let them sit stale, but...
If you think you may use them in the future, you can grab them up and just hold them. But if you're not planning on using them, don't overwhelm yourself. What I see people burn out on social media is they try to do all of them, and then they end up being too sparse and they don't get a following on any of them. So if you're not going to be able to handle it, it doesn't meet what your business does, then I wouldn't jump on that one. But I do recommend finding the ones that do and at least jumping on those. All right, so creating content and pushing that content out. So we want to write engaging articles. So I have a great article on the site, which, you know what, I'm going to just go through these real fast, put them up on the screen, and then so you can at least write down the URL because it's kind of long. There it is. Okay. Everything I'm about to talk about is at that URL. If you go to that URL, this is all written out in a like 2,000 word blog post, and it has a link to all the different tools I'm going to talk about. But first thing you want to do is you want to write about what you already know. This is really simple. You guys are experts. I always tell this to my clients. You're experts in what you do. That's why you do it for a living. So that's what you need to be writing about. You know, don't go write about something you don't know. People are going to be able to read it and be able to tell that you have no idea what you're talking about. So write about what you know, and that should be your obviously your main thing. Next thing is, what are your customers asking? I always have people going, I don't know what to publish on my blog. I don't know what to write about. I don't know, and I always ask them and say, okay, well, let me ask you this: do you get emails or phone calls from your customers every week? Yeah. Do they seem to ask the same exact question over and over? Yeah. Is that on your website anywhere? Well, no. I just answer it. Well, write an article about it. If they're asking that question, that means a lot of other people are going to probably have that question. I'm sure sitting in this room, for each person who puts up their hand, at least 3 other people had that question who didn't put their hands up. And it's just human nature. Most times people are afraid to ask. They don't want to ask questions. They don't want to step up. So I always assume for every person who asks that question, there's probably 10 to 20 others on your site who just never emailed you, never took the time to try to reach out to you to ask that question. So just remember that that's a great way to create some content. Find out what kind of questions they have. You can even go as far as asking, putting a survey on your site and asking a question of what would you like to know more about us, or creating an easy way for them to contact you and start tracking all of those questions that come in. What are others asking? So this is more doing. This is more going into Google and looking and seeing what are the keywords that people are looking for. What kind of questions are they asking? One of the things that I use a tool called Ahrefs. It is a premium tool. It does have a fee to it, but I can actually go in and do some keyword research. At the article here, I have a couple other places that you can go and look up different ways to do this keyword research and to see different questions people are asking. Also, Google's autocomplete. Funny enough, if you go into Google, one of the easiest ways to find out what exact questions people are asking is start to type in a keyword and then see what the drop down of what Google suggests what Google suggests your question to be, and that autocomplete. Pick those and write articles about those, targeting those, because Google bases that off of the most searches that are coming in. So it's an easy, quick way just to find. And there's actually sites out there that are linked inside here that show or actually aggregate those and put them into a listing for you to find as well. And then what are others covering? So this is where you go and do not ever steal your competitors' content. Be inspired by their content. So go to their site and see what they're writing about and look what's popular on their site. See what's taking off. Go on Twitter with a hashtag of your keyword. Go on Facebook and do a search for your keyword. See what other people are writing and talking about, and then see what the engagement is on those. There's also a system called Buzzsumo, and Buzzsumo will go in, and it's also linked in the article here, but Buzzsumo is a way that you can actually search and see, based off of a keyword, all the different articles and how much social engagement those articles got on different social networks. So you can look and say, okay, so this is the engaging content that people are looking for. And then you can see, and this is the content nobody really cares about. And it'll help you find great topics and great ideas to write about.
What is that?
Buzzsumo. And again, all of these I'm talking about are linked. And so you can pull up that, and there's about 20 or so resources linked in that article. And then what's trending. That kind of goes back to the Buzzsumo piece as well. But you can see what are people talking about on the different social networks, what's big right now, what's popular right now, and go ahead and you can chase after those. Right now, everybody's talking about the Olympics and everything going on with the Olympics. Now, be careful. There are copyrights that you have to be careful of, or NBC will come after you. But there's things you can talk about in relations to current events going on and current surroundings that you can associate your content with. So again, check out that URL. That's a short URL that goes to there, and you can find out some information. And then we're going to go back to this slide again. Of course, I'm going to have to click through each one. Push out all that content you write on all those different social networks. Click, click, click. Oh, and that's it. Push it out on all the different social networks that you have available to you. And don't just push it out once. You want to go ahead and set up a schedule and push it out multiple times. I use a tool called CoSchedule to schedule all my social media posts. Whenever I write an article, my article is scheduled to go out at least 4 times. It goes out the day within a day of the posting. It goes out the next week. It goes out 1 month later, and then it goes out 2 months later, and then it goes into a requeue where if it's evergreen content basically can be used and it's not time related. Then it will sit and it will continue to go out every couple months. It'll retweet out and then repost onto our Facebook page and so forth. Yes? CoSchedule. CoSchedule.com. Robert.
I just want to give it some advice too, as far as when you're blogging, stick to one topic, because when you're building your audiences on your social media, you're very focused, and you will build that audience up and continue to grow.
Exactly. So what he was saying is you want to stay around one topic. Don't just, when we're talking about chasing the trending stuff, don't just go and start writing articles about the opening ceremonies last night when your whole entire site is about cooking because it has nothing to do with it. So you want to go ahead and make sure you stay on topic, and you'll build that following because people want to hear from you, the expert, on that one topic, not just hear your random ramblings about everything. So, oh, we got one in the back?
Just a quick question. Is that post schedule, because I don't like Hootsuite because I don't like it to say posted by Hootsuite. Does it just?
It does. It does, yes. Any of those tools will say that just because you're not posting through their app. And CoSchedule is the one I personally like. There are other ones, like she said, Hootsuite. I think, is Hootsuite got a free version?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Hootsuite has a free version. CoSchedule is like $30 or $40 a month, but I like it just because of the requeue availability to be able to repost the stuff. But there's, do you have one or?
No, I don't have one. I was
Oh.
calling about that.
Yeah.
CoSchedule, Hootsuite, all those, they're not the ones adding those posted by
Yeah.
Hootsuite. It's Facebook, Twitter, the platform itself it's informing the audience, by the way, this isn't coming directly from Chris.
know.
This is coming from someone else.
So there is no way to avoid that?
That's the platform.
Yeah,
that does
the only way to avoid it is to manually go into each one and post, which you could do if you want. You can go into manually. It's just when you, if you were on all those social networks that is listed, that could be a lot of time you're spending posting just that one article. Yes, ma'am.
When you repost the article 1 week, 2 weeks, 2 months, do you choose a different time in a day trying to get different audiences?
So with CoSchedule, the one thing it does is it looks at my channel, analyzes my channel, and it finds when my followers are most active, and it reposts it at that time slot. So it dynamically picks the time. I do change up the content. I don't post the exact same wording for my stuff. So when I say I have those 4 different posts go out, those are 4 different posts. I write them differently so that when they go out across those different times, you're not seeing me pushing the exact same post out.
So you do that at the time you write the post, you have the 4 different versions, and then
Yes.
you tag which one goes when?
Yes. Yes.
You mean you choose best time?
Yes, it'll choose best time, yes. You can schedule a certain time if you do want, but I always set mine to just best time.
So you mean CoSchedule will automatically analyze your web page, like the content, and it chooses the best time for your website?
It will choose best time for your feed, for that social network feed. So it basically, when you first start out, it chooses the best time based off of statistics, based off of just their overall platform, but then it slowly tailors those towards yours as you post more content, because it monitors your content, how much engagement it got.
So if I have like six posts on the same day with different contents, and I can choose all best times.
Yes.
So
And it will space them out. It'll make sure it'll make sure they don't all go out 1 minute after each other. It spaces them out. If it has to, if there's too many in one day, because you set how much you want per day so it doesn't look overly spammy, it'll actually move some to a second day if it has to. So it keeps it so that if you end up accidentally having a ton on one day, it spreads them out so it doesn't overwhelm people. Yes, sir.
When you're talking about the different versions, you're talking about like what you put on LinkedIn or Twitter, not the actual article, right? You said like 4 versions for.
Yes. My little comment that I put, my tweet or my Facebook post. Yeah. The actual snippet that comes in there comes from what Arena was talking about with Yoast. That piece that you add in there, it usually is the meta description and the title, unless you customize it.
Great.
And yes, sir.
I just wanted to add, you didn't mention Search Console.
Search Console. I did not mention that one in this one. I'll mention it here at the end, real quick. So the biggest, one thing I'm going to kind of end here with is WordPress maintenance. There we go. We're going to talk about this with plugins. You want to keep your site secure. So there's plugins that help you do this, but one of the other things that creates a vulnerability in your site is outdated code. WordPress is open source, so is all the plugins that are built for it. Every once in a while, a vulnerability is found and it's patched. And once it's found, it's published out there to everybody because everybody knows it's out there because of the patch that came out. If you're not updating your site, somebody can exploit that and they can hack into your site. So you want to make sure that you're constantly making sure your site is updated and up to the latest on all plugins and on WordPress core. It also is going to help keep your site fast. Different improvements that come out also are for speed-related items. They're going to go ahead and they're going to keep your site going fast. When we talk about SEO, speed is a very important thing. We're going to touch on, optimizing your images for speed. Optimizing your code is something as a developer. If you're not a developer, you're not going to be able to go in. You're also not going to be able to go. You're not supposed to go in and edit WordPress core's code through. Just don't ever go touch their code. But speeding up their stuff, they're going to constantly do through updates. So if you're keeping your site up to date, you're also going to be keeping it up a lot faster. You're going to stay error-free. Nothing's worse than going to a site and there being a big old error across the site. Sometimes an update, you do have to kind of watch the updates. A plugin developer may issue an update, and that update may break something, and you may have to roll back that update. WordPress recently, what was it, 4.93, actually broke automatic updates, so that everyone had to install 4.94 to add that back in. So it does happen, so you do want to monitor that, but you want to make sure you keep everything up to date. And then I added this in there because it's not technically part of maintenance, but something you should really make sure you do. Keep your domain. Keep it in your account. Don't ever let your host control it. Don't let someone else control it for you. It needs to stay in your own GoDaddy, Namecheap, whichever domain company, Google Domains, whoever you use, make sure it's in your account. Make sure your credit card is on file, and make sure your email is in there for billing, so that if there is an issue with billing, you get an email. We've had too many times we've had people come to us, call us up, freaking out saying, a month ago, our domain expired. We didn't know, and we need to get our website back online. Well, unfortunately, someone may have bought that domain out from under you, and now you don't own it. And getting that domain back, you're going to potentially end up having to pay somebody thousands of dollars to get your domain back from them. So you want to make sure you don't ever let your domain expire. If you're even, let's say you're at a spot where you own the domain, you're not 100% sure if you're going to keep doing things, it's $9 to keep the domain per year. I would at least keep it another year. Just make sure that you're completely done with that domain before you get rid of it. David here has tons of domains, and it's always a struggle for him. He's getting less, but you have one. If you're ever looking for domains, David always has a bunch. So with WordPress maintenance, you can do it yourself, or you can hire someone to help you with this. So if you don't want to handle doing all the backups and you don't want to handle all the other fun that comes with keeping the site up to date, rolling back a plugin if it doesn't work or anything like that, there's different maintenance companies out there. Daydream Labs, we have maintenance service. David has FixUpFox, fixupfox.com. They do WordPress maintenance as well. There's a couple other ones out there. I can't remember. WP Curve?
They were bought out recently.
Oh, they were bought out. Maintain. There's a whole bunch of them out there if you just Google search WordPress maintenance. A whole bunch of different ones. Look at them, see what they offer, and see which one fits your needs of what you need. They all usually range some as low as like I think $50 up to like $200 a month, depending what you're looking for. There's some that are even higher. But you can bring those companies on, and they'll actually help you maintain your site for you and keep all those updates, roll back plugins, and anything like that.
What about those hosting companies that also do the maintenance?
They will. You can get one of them on as well.
Do you have one that you like?
Sure, Data-Driven Labs. We do hosting. Our maintenance packages come with hosting. There's a couple other ones. Flywheel. They will maintain your core WordPress updates. They do not maintain your plugin updates. So one thing to check when you're working with a managed host, a lot of the managed hosts will not update your plugins. They will just update WordPress itself. So just double check that and make sure that they're either handling that or that you're taking care of getting those plugins updated. So that's the only thing I say about that. A lot of them don't do the plugin updates. Do you know any of them that do plugins?
None of the, if you're going to want a host that will also do maintenance on your site, you're going to want to go through someone like Chris or someone like Carol who does hosting, but is mainly, like you don't sell yourself as a hosting provider, you sell yourself as a
Maintenance provider. Yes.
That does hosting.
Yes.
Can I add something? We do hosting and manage websites.
Yes, yes. When you go on with the maintenance company, a lot of time they're going to kind of come back and tell you if you got a plugin that they're going to say, you shouldn't use this plugin. We've done that a few times. There's also plugins that haven't had updates in 2 or 3 years and actually have known vulnerabilities. But your maintenance company will be able to come and they usually have suggestions of other plugins that you can use in place of those, that are more secure. And then with real fast start is what I call this, paying for traffic. So this is PPC. With search takes a long time to get set up, get things going, right? So one of the things that we always say is if you have a company and you're trying to get going really quick and you need to really just get traffic coming in, you can do paid ads. You can do them on Google paid search. You can also do Facebook PPC. You can do Twitter and LinkedIn. I haven't had as much success on Twitter and LinkedIn. It just depends what your market is. I've had recruiters do really well on LinkedIn, but there's, you just got to pick which one works best for you. Facebook allows a lot of really hyper targeting. You can really target down to interests, job titles, things like that as well. But you can do paid ads. You can go through, each of them have their own little courses on how to use their paid programs, and they make them pretty easy for you to get in there. Or you can look at hiring an AdWords certified person or a PPC company that can help you with that. Well, we also do PPC, but there's a whole lot of different companies out there that can help you with PPC, a whole bunch in our group that help out with PPC as well. So you can look at that if that's an option you're looking at. Realize with those, you're usually, depending what your keyword you're trying to bid for, you can be paying anywhere from $1 per click all the way up to, one of my clients is like $25 per click. They're in the medical field. And I actually have, if you're an attorney, it gets really high. I actually have a friend who does PPC for an attorney, and they pay somewhere in the range of like $100 and something a click. Yeah, it's not cheap. PPC, paid per click. Yeah. So just realize that depending on, well, yeah, it's a huge class action suit, and it's worth it to them because they're going to make a lot of money off it once it goes through. But just realize PPC does cost money. You're going to spend a decent portion. Make sure if you do that, that you also make sure that whoever you're working with helps you get your analytics set up right and you are tracking those goal conversions, because at that point, when you're paying for each one of those clicks, you want to make sure the keywords that you're bidding on are keywords that are converting and creating traffic. And then I do want to bring up real quick, Robert mentioned it, there is a tool called Webmaster Tools. It's google.com/webmasters. If you go there, you can get to it. And it's basically the search console for Google that you can kind of get a back-end look of what Google sees for your site. You can also put your sitemap in there. You can see any errors that Google search is realizing with your site. So sometimes your site may be having some issues. You'll be able to see those right away. Google will be able to contact you right away and tell you about any problems going on, so you can fix those before you get in there. You just can search for Google Search Console, Google Webmaster Tools. I think it's google.com/webmasters will get you there. But if not, just search for Google Search Console and you'll find it. And then real quick, if you've got any questions, we'll jump into questions. There's a lot of resources. You can go here and download the slides. Give a couple of different items inside there. There's other resources out there that I like to always say when there's SEO involved, because there's lots of questions usually left over. There's searchengineland.com. They have a lot of great articles on SEO. Moz.com has some great articles. There's also a lot of great podcasts. Robert has a podcast called, Search Talk Live. SearchTalkLive.com is the URL to that podcast. And they do a lot of really cool talks. I actually think he's got the creator of Yoast that's coming on his show here in a little bit. So definitely check that out. And there's a lot of cool stuff on there as well. So I'm open the floor to any questions. Yes, sir?
Yeah. There's child themes. Is there a concept of child plugins? Probably not those. Or is there a strategy you have for if you modify a plugin, then what do you do in terms of maintenance? Or have you done this?
I'll let David answer that one.
No, I don't know anyone who calls them child plugins. Most companies call them extensions or add-ons. But yeah, a lot of major. You can get add-ons for Yoast, for instance, that work with other plugins or specific themes or.
Sorry, let me rephrase it. If you modify a plugin yourself, do you have a strategy
If you modify the plugin, just realize when you update it, it's going to wipe out everything you did. It depends how the plugin was written. Some plugins you can actually edit by just creating a functions file or creating your own plugin that modifies that plugin. However, some plugins may not be as easy to do that with. So some plugins you may end up just modifying their code. Just remember that as soon as you update, whatever you put in there goes away. I've actually updated plugins that were out of date that have been updated in 2 or 3 years. They're probably dead plugins. I've updated them before to do what I needed them to do, and then because they're not being updated, I just turned the updates off on those, and I just make sure that they do very simple things. I don't do very complex ones because they're ones I know there's no security hole in it. So.
Just to touch a little bit on that, on how to add functionality on top of your plugin. I forgot what the name of the plugin was, but it was basically a PHP inserter. And if you don't want to leave your admin panel, you can go and add a snippet of code into this plugin, and I'll give it to you afterwards if you're interested, and let you know which one it is. But it sits separately of your plugin, and so you can update your plugin and have the code be more modular.
Behind you. Yes, sir.
Are you using Google Tag Manager, and if so, are you using a plugin, or are you just implementing the code directly into the thing?
All right, so me personally, I only use Google Tag Manager. I implement the code manually, the Google Tag Manager code manually into my sites just because of the way I have this set up. But there is I can't remember, there is a plugin out there that you can put Google Tag Manager code in through the plugin as well, and it doesn't add very much but the code. So it's not very bloated or anything like that. But I do Google Tag Manager for all my sites just because it's what we prefer to use ourselves for all of our different tracking methods.
How many people work in your firm?
There's 2 of us full-time, and then we have 3 part-timers right now. Yes, ma'am.
What are the top, well, let's see, I think I already wrote this, because I know you're going to say my host, anyway, this is the question. What are the top 3 web hosts for WordPress sites?
All right, so we have an awesome article on our website, WP Orlando, about hosts. I don't really recommend straight up any host because it really comes down to particular needs of your site. I use Flywheel. We have a Flywheel reseller or bulk account is what we use, but there's a lot of other ones out there that are great. If you go to this link here, we talk about all the different ones.
Pretty sure it's in the header of the site.
I think actually this has a video of me actually doing a talk on how to pick the right WordPress host for you, because it really comes down to your individual site.
And which one of those places?
WPOrlando.org.
Like right in the header menu, there's a link that says hosting.
Yes, Robert.
I'm going to make a comment that be a minimalist when you create or when you use plugins. I've seen so many sites where there's 40 plugins in sites.
Yes, don't overload your site with plugins. Plugins, you're going to find that there's a plugin for everything. Be very careful with plugin bloat. Again, I think there's a talk on our YouTube page from Adam. I don't know if did it get uploaded?
I don't have the videos up there, but yeah, we would have the slides at least.
Yeah, there should be the slides on our site about it, but we actually talk about, Adam Susi did a talk on plugin bloat, and he's a severe plugin minimalist. But you really should try your hardest to reduce what plugins you're using. Make sure before you add a plugin, if you are adding a plugin, make sure it just does just the thing you need. Sometimes people add a plugin because they need to do this, and it does this, and they add this huge plugin just to do this little tiny portion. For example, Yoast. All those things that were in Yoast, you could literally add a plugin to do each one of those different functions of Yoast, or I add Yoast because it does all of those, and then I don't have to add 8 different plugins to my site. So look and see if there's another plugin maybe does everything you need, or if there isn't, then look for a plugin that does only what you need. All right.
And if you add a plugin and find out that it doesn't do what you want, delete it.
Yes.
Don't just disable it, because then it's still eating up resources on your site, and if you're having a problem where something's being broken, it could be that deactivated plugin that still has code in there that's messing up on something.
Lisa pointed out, I mentioned this yesterday, one of my clients site, they had 65 active plugins. And I went
Yes.
through and I looked, and don't get me wrong, I have a WooCommerce site that just does, it's a shop, but it has like 20 plugins activated because they all do a specific WooCommerce thing. You know, WooCommerce dropshipping, which so it's not just a lot of plugins is bad, because they're just little extensions that do those needs. But I did an audit on them and I said, are you using this plugin? I don't see it in use anywhere on the site. Why are you have this plugin installed when you're already using this other plugin to do X? And we went through all 65 plugins and got it down to 21 plugins with no functionality change on the website. Just going through and auditing what they were doing and going, you don't need this plugin because you're already doing it with this one, or you literally aren't using it at all.
We do a speed optimization service with one of our plans, and I'll tell you one of my secrets. 60% of the time, I'm able to reduce the speed of your site by just disabling the plugins you don't use anymore. So that kind of gives you an idea what impact plugins can have on your site.
And site speed is huge.
Yes, very huge. Any other questions? All right, well, thanks everyone for coming out.